It's time for another Dirt Daily, and today I am starting on the rear bumper on Noob Sock. I am using an AEV rear bumper. Similar to the one in the front where it's multiple components that bolt together, there's actually three major components. There's a piece in each corner that wraps around the bottom of the tub and ties into the frame, both on the back and on the side, as well as a centerpiece that is like the main structure of the bumper. There's also recovery points. Well, actually, I take that back. I say there's three components. There's actually four. There's also a swing out tire carrier that's really pretty tricky. It ties into the tailgate, so it all kind of opens as one unit. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be showing that install because my swing out tire carrier is lost somewhere in I don't know where, somewhere between Michigan and here. It's sitting in a box in some sort of UPS warehouse, lost. So, which is fine. Because the kit is designed so that you can add that on later. You can order it and it looks really clean and nice without a tire carrier. And that just means that if you look up here, you can see my tire is in the bed of the Jeep. It's a 37. It actually fits in there pretty well. I have a big old ratchet strap that runs over the top of it to the floor, and then I have another ratchet strap that ties it up against the roll cage, and then it's butted up against the back of the passenger seat. I actually really like how it sits in there. I may even build a spare tire mount, but my whole goal for this Jeep was to build something different than my old TJ, and I was like, I'm gonna have a swing out tire carrier in the back, so I have all this cargo space in the back of the Jeep. Even though it's a two-door, I'm gonna have all this cargo space. It's gonna be so much room for stuff. And then something got lost, which is fine. We're gonna make it do, we're gonna make it work. Step one, this bracket is gonna get bolted onto the back and wrapped around the side. This isn't gonna be a step-by-step install. As you probably know, most of my installs are not step-by-step. There's tons of, most of the manufacturers have videos that show step-by-step, or they have really good instructions that have step-by-step. I'm just kind of gonna install stuff, give you some pointers if I come across something I think will help you. And at the end of the day, I don't think you're really interested in install bolt A into slot B and make things work. That stuff you can all figure out with the regular instructions. So step one of my non-step install is I'm going to install this here. Let me get some hardware. This is the first piece of the bumper. It's a tubular structure that wraps around from where the old bumper and tow hooks attached, and then wraps around to the frame and has like a system of bolts and U-bolts to hold it up there. This, you will need to reuse some of the hardware from the bumper that you took apart. So hopefully you didn't take everything off and throw it away while you're waiting for your bumper to get here. That's one step that you definitely need, is to keep all those components because you'll be reusing a lot of them to bolt this on. This side of the bumper or the frame has a tow hook. The passenger side on mine does not, but that's okay because the AEV supplies the other hardware that is needed. Oh, I was talking about how this isn't like a step-by-step install. There's a really good set of videos from Northridge. Northridge is like a dealer that sells all types of off-road stuff, and there's a guy named Tech Tim, bald guy with a goatee. Sometimes he wears a kilt. Don't hold that against him. He's a good dude, and he does really good tech install videos where it's like step by step, right by the book. So if you're looking for, and I know that he installed both the AEV rear bumper and front bumper on a JL that Northridge gave away. So if you don't get all the information or all the answers from this video, check out Tech Tim over there at Northridge. This goes on sort of like that. You're also not going to want to tighten all of these up to full torque. Don't run them in with your impact gun to full Monty, because you're going to have to maybe shim them or adjust them a little bit to get the bumper to sit exactly how you want it to sit. It's also handy to have a flashlight so you can look inside and make sure all the bolts are running where they need to go. My lower ones are good. This upper one is being a little wonky. So this is how it's going to work. This piece will wrap around. There's a single bolt that goes into the frame on the inside there, and then a U-bolt that goes around the frame and ties into it. I like how it sticks out. It kind of protects everything, and there's actually another plastic component that fits in here and kind of fills in that gap. On the passenger side, you may need to use a rubber mallet to massage the bracket onto this. This isn't really because of the bracket, it's more likely because of the frame. I also had to grind. There's like a little weld dingleberry on the top of my frame that was there from the factory. And you'll also find that on the passenger side, the lower bolt holes are not threaded inside the frame like on the driver's side. So even though you'll be reusing some of your factory hardware, you'll also be adding some AEV hardware because they included washers and nuts to go on top of the big bolts that come up through the bottom of the frame. Again, like most of these things, just get everything hand tight or hand started before you get crazy with the impact. The outer hardware is non-existent on the passenger side from the factory, so these you will also be using the AEV stuff. And you'll also find that some of this hardware is a different size than the factory, so you're going to need different sets of sockets and wrenches. Once you get both corner guards on, you're going to want to grab a level and figure out if each side is level to each other. There's little shims that you can put in between the corner guard and the frame to kind of lean it out one way or the other. And then you're also going to want to install the U-bolts up underneath the frame that wrap around the frame and tie into the front of the tubular structure that goes around the corner. And there's also a single bolt that comes in the kit that screws into the side of the frame. Once the brackets are on, you're going to drill a hole down through the top. There's a hole already in the bracket. You'll just have to drill through the frame rail, and then you'll drop a bolt and washer or bolt and nut on that to clamp it on. That way this bracket is held on the top, the bottom, the side, as well as where it wraps around. It's clamped onto the frame rail and bolted to the side of the frame rail. Next, you're going to install this corner piece. This is a plastic tank type device that lives right here, and there's a couple Allen head bolts that will run into that. One will come up through a hole right here. These bumpers have provisions for everything, like if you have backup sensors or a backup camera. My Jeep has a backup camera, but I took it off when I took the tire carrier off because I was going to mount the backup camera onto my new tire carrier. Be sure and not over torque these. Set your impact gun to super baby low, tight, and then copy the same on the passenger side. Here is the final piece of the bumper. Well, at least the final piece until we get a tire carrier. This piece just slides right on there. And it does have a small traction piece here, so if you need to step on it. And there's a window here that you could put a backup light. there's a block off plate. There's also holes for your backup sensors if you have those. Luckily my Jeep is kind of like the stripped down version, so it doesn't have any of that. I'm gonna put in a bunch of little bolts, put in those backup or those block out plates, and the rear bumper is done. This hole right here will get a cap, or that's where the spare tire mount will go in once it arrives. Overall, bumper looks good, has recovery points. It has a spot where you can put the trailer hitch on from the factory. You can put a backup light right here. There's a step. I think it turned out pretty nice. Plus it has some corner protection and it doesn't stick out really far. That's it for this Dirt Daily. We got the bumper on Noob Sock. See you guys next time.